Welcome along to this next instalment of our January content campaign. We are calling it Landlord Digital Lives, and it's produced in association with our friends and partners at Landlord. And I'm delighted to welcome my next guest, Andy Simpson, who is MD of Landlord Broadband. And Andy, we can't have a Landlord Digital Lives campaign without a representative such as yourself, because Wi-Fi is the gateway to all these digital tools. So it's great to have you as part of our conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vanessa.
Now, we're very fortunate that the property sector's remained open during this current lockdown. But if we look at the property sector as a whole, it's been quite resistant to change in the past, and COVID-19 has definitely accelerated that change and, kind of accelerated the adoption of technology and digital tools, which actually I think is very positive. And with your service providing specialist broadband services for landlords, have you seen, an uptick in landlords taking this, the importance of broadband more seriously?
Yeah, because it was growing in popularity anyway, but obviously with home working and students, with the universities closing in particular, those courses and the work still needed to take place. So there was an increased demand really for internet access, but not only just internet access, the right internet access, because somebody needed to be able to work from their room in the house that they rented. So it's been really positive from our perspective, despite the pandemic, really.
Yeah, because as we were saying, the industry has kind of been slightly resistant to change now, but now we've got things like, digital viewings, open banking for tenant referencing, and lots of things. So everybody is reaching online for a solution now, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of apps and lots of different software that landlords can use. I think, like you say, the virtual viewings possibly got fast-tracked about 5 years from where they probably would have come into place.
Yeah.
And that's really revolutionised things. I've only got one property left to let now until the next tenancy, until summer 2022, and they've all been let using 360 virtual tours and video coverage, and obviously your photos have to be of a good standard as well, so the letting and the onboarding side of things has really sort of taken off digitally.
No, that's interesting to hear that you've actually had some positive outcome from virtual viewings, because a lot of people, when I mention virtual viewings, they go, oh no, tenants aren't going to, rent a property just on a virtual viewing. But we're not saying that. What we're saying, and I'm sure you'll agree, is that that the virtual viewings kind of act as a filter, so that you can get rid of kind of time wasters before they even have to travel to the property, and you have to travel to the property to meet them. And I think, this is one of the big things about digital tools, is that they can really help you optimize your time.
Yeah, manage your time. And obviously, in years gone by, we've had viewings where even you've had no-shows and things like that, and it's really important. It can be quite frustrating for landlords at times, and you want to be focusing on developing your property business and providing a great service and reinvesting and improving your properties, don't you? And that's where it can really add value. And like I say, lots of properties are being let at the moment completely virtually, but as you pointed out, I think the post-COVID way will be a sort of verification viewing will take place before a tenant sign for a property, but it will filter out a lot of the viewings that take place prior to that, because you've got so much information that's in the public domain, on the internet now. And I think it's better for the existing tenants as well, because you've not got lots of people continuously trawling through the house who may only be sort of 30-40% interested in the property. You're waiting essentially until it's sort of a 90-95%, and it's a verification thing at that point. So yeah, it helps landlords manage their time. I think it helps the existing tenant experience, and helps the onboarding of new tenants as well. So that's something that really has come into place and won't go away, I don't think.
And I think, as landlords, we have to be aware of changing tenant priorities as well, which is again being driven by COVID. And tenants are, one of the things that they're doing is they are accessing digital services and tools. And, we were talking to Phil Spencer in the previous Zoom call, and he said that the way people are using their homes has changed so drastically in the last year or so because of COVID. And, you've got people working from home, homeschooling, running a gym from their home using things like Peloton, and they're online all the time, ordering their shopping, and all of these digital trends. Landlords need to be aware of them from the perspective of making sure that their tenants have the broadband capacity to access all of this online stuff in the environment that we're in. And this is really where your service shines, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to go back to exactly how things were in terms of the use of office space, in particular for professionals. I think employers are seeing that it's good for work-life balance. They're seeing that they've got a lot of good systems in place. They've had to react to put these things in place, but they're getting the same kind of delivery from people. But obviously, you've got that work-life balance as well. So I think people are going to be increasingly keeping sort of home offices in place, but you need to be having the right internet access to be able to upload and download information to be able to work. But also beyond that, you've got all the other things you do in the home as well. And we've got smart technology in terms of thermostats and things like that. So not only is it at the tenant end, it's the landlord's end, because I can foresee we're sort of rolling out smart property management products as part of our installation. And because we're already there putting the network in place, if you like. And I can see a point where there's a lot more kind of internet-based technology utilised in managing a property. Some of these things, as long as they're correctly set up on the internet, you can change the temperature from New Zealand if you wanted to, that sort of thing. And some of these devices are intelligent enough to tell if the property is occupied and make things energy efficient and green and what have you. So I think there's going to be more and more technology involved for landlords and letting agents managing properties. So heating's the obvious one at the moment. So there's some good portfolio management products like Inspire out there. But I can see key management, which is always a tricky area in terms of exchanging keys and signing in, signing out, and you've got obviously contractors going to properties. I can see a point where you've got secure internet-based key systems in place that are widespread, that allow you to portfolio manage and give temporary logins to contractors and things like that. I can see systems in place that sense humidity and potential for mold and things like that. So there is going to be a point where a lot of things where you would have to otherwise rush to the property to have a look and get them sorted out can be managed through sensors and controls.
Well, it's very interesting. I would call that kind of smart buildings. And I can definitely see that trend. Property Tribes has partnered with Clevio, which is a digital key access service.
Right.
And as you say, during the pandemic, landlords that had digital keys were able to facilitate entry for trades and contractors without visiting the property. If the property was empty, of course, the contractor can go in. And, Andy, a lot of people, I think, are still complacent, thinking everything's going to go back to how it was before the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think, and I don't know whether you agree, but I think that's dangerous thinking, because complacency is not a good mindset during the situation crisis that we're in. And I think that landlords have got to accept that there's a new normal coming. It's not going to be the same as how it was.
The types of industries that are going to do well going forward are going to be different. We can see that, and you can see that from a lot of the government strategy in terms of the green side of things, and digital in itself, and obviously they're wanting all properties to have gigabit broadband access. So they're the sort of areas that they're focusing on. So things are going to change in terms of what people do and how they live their lives post-COVID, because it's fast-tracked, a lot of things digital, and when people are finding, with software and so on, that you can do things quicker and more efficiently with these types of things in place. But obviously, in the rental properties, not only have you got the increasing demands to satisfy the tenant expectations on making sure they've got adequate internet access, I can foresee a point where obviously you've got more devices on there that are linked to how the landlord manages the property in a smart fashion. And obviously they're gaining the benefit from that in terms of their cost to serve, if you like, and managing their own time on their own property portfolio.
I agree that tenant expectations and it is very important, because tenants are digital natives. Landlords, probably, my sort of typical age, 45 to 70, that's the kind of demographic age of a typical landlord. We are analog thinkers, and we almost have to put ourselves now in our tenants' shoes, because they are going to want digital interactions, whether that's reporting something that needs repairing, when they can upload a picture straight to a website, show the problem, get a quote, organise a trades. All of these things, I think, that they're going to become expectations of tenants going forwards, even when we're out of this pandemic situation. Landlords do have to move with the times. There is a digital shift, and sitting back and doing what you've always done and thinking it's going to work in the future, I think is a little foolhardy, to say the least.
And like you say, it is a lot of it is driven by tenants as well, because they tend to be in a demographic that's very tech savvy, and technology moves on at absolute rate of knots, and there's new software applications all the time. Things are changing on social media all the time, and there's an expectation that it's easier to raise these types of things through, like you say, a photo or an app or that sort of thing. So it's really going to revolutionise how people manage properties in future. And I think the pandemic, unfortunately, has fast-tracked that quite significantly.
Well, it's really great to have your insights in this topic, Andy. Thank you very much for joining me on Landlord Digital Lives. And if anybody would like to know more about Andy's service, Landlord Broadband, I will put the link to the introductory video in the footer of this thread. If anybody's interested, Andy, the first thing they need to do if they want to have a professional broadband installation is to take advantage of your free assessment service, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll include links to everything that you need to know about Landlord Broadband. But for now, Andy, thank you very much for joining me. Can I just say to everybody watching, if you are watching this on YouTube, please do like, if you did like, and subscribe and hit the notifications bell. Please also do jump across to propertytribes.com. That is where our discussions are hosted. And if you've got any questions for Andy and his team about broadband issues, Wi-Fi issues, etc., that's the place to ask them, and you can get prescriptive advice from Landlord Broadband, Andy and his team. So we do invite you to jump across to propertytribes.com and join our very busy and thriving community. It's certainly interesting, Andy. We've had so many new landlords coming on board with Property Tribes in the last few months. So I still think there's a lot of interest in property as a sector, and landlords need products and services that are going to help them survive.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye now.